In this video, I'll give you the 2024 tight end strategy for fantasy redraft leagues. I'm Jim Coventry of Rotowire. I'm passing on the top 4 tight ends and maybe even later. Last year was the first time in 5 years we didn't have tight end 1 lapping the field by 60 or more PPR points. Tight end number 2 in those previous years continued to lap the field. That number 3 tight end and beyond was usually distant to the top 2 options. Last year, sure, Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce were neck and neck for the number 1 spot. But the top 6 tight ends, they were all within 30 fantasy points of each other, PPR points. It was a packed field. Nobody had a big advantage. The big advantage in the past is why we used to draft Travis Kelce at the 1.04. Now, I know this year we're drafting Kelce and Laporta in the 3rd. But you can get some of these tight ends later, and there may not be that much of a difference. Kelce could go off, and there's that. But he's aging. So I'm passing on the top 4. I'm going to get my running backs, my receivers, while people are taking those early tight ends. I will begin to look after tight end 4 if Mark Andrews is on the board. Mark Andrews missed week 1 last year. It was very clear he was not himself in week 2 and week 3 he played. His numbers were down. From week 3 through week 10, he was the same beast we were used to seeing. And then, of course, in week 11, he got injured early in the game. We take the game out of his season numbers. He was on 900-yard pace. Now, we saw last year, the offense for the Ravens, the passing attack, got better from week 12 on. Teams learn offenses over time. Todd Monken's offense. Lamar Jackson got better. Mark Andrews wasn't there. With this offense getting better and installing more this year, they throw downfield a lot because they use 21 personnel. Extra running back on the field, Patrick Ricard, who's really a lineman. But that said, they draw defenses in. They throw over. Mark Andrews is a deep threat. Mark Andrews is great in the seam. Zay Flowers is a very good player. But Mark Andrews has always been Lamar Jackson's guy. And that's not changing here. And so that said, the only time Andrews didn't hit 847 yards in a full season was 2020. And he doesn't miss that much time. Last year he had the timeout. He usually misses two games or less. He's usually on the field. So that said, Andrews is one of 5 tight ends with 1,000-yard season in the last 5 years. 1,000-yard seasons are not common in tight ends. He had 1,300 yards that season. He's not going to get that again. But 1,000, yeah, totally in play as this offense grows. But if you don't get Andrews as the tight end 5, don't reach for him. Continue to wait. Jake Fergenson is normally the 8th or 9th tight end off the board. That waiting for Fergenson allows you to get a good quarterback, receivers, and running backs. Fergenson stepped into the lead tight end role last year. Seam stretcher. Very good red zone option. Perfect with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's always liked the tight end. Fergenson last year, 761 yards and 5 touchdowns. That doesn't include the playoff game when he had 93 yards and 3 more touchdowns. Hey, it may not be fantasy numbers, but he had that game. Anyway, after week 6, Dallas went really pass heavy. They couldn't run the ball. Well, this year, the rushing attack will be no better. You lose Pollard, they bring in an aging Zeke Elliott. So Dallas is going to keep throwing. And Fergenson was a very high floor with a fair ceiling once Dallas went in that direction. Expect that again. There were 8 games when Fergenson had at least 40 yards, which is solid. 102 targets on the season. With Dallas having to throw, he's getting those 100 targets most likely again, and that could be a little bump from there. He may not have seen the limit yet. If you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the Rotowire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, you can check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings by getting a free 2-day trial with no credit card needed. You just head to rotowire.com/Jim and you'll see all of our content. All right. If you want to wait even later, normally, Pat Freiermuth's moving up draft boards a little bit. Pat Freiermuth, if you miss Fergenson, I would immediately look for Freiermuth, even if you got to reach a round to get him. Freiermuth in 2022 was very good. 732 yards. We loved it. Last year, huge disappointment. Fantasy bust. In 2022, Freiermuth was getting 6 targets a game. Last year, it was only 4. And then his depth of target went from 7.5 last year, 6.6. He was doomed. Arthur Smith comes in, and a lot of people are scared. They're like, well, look, Kyle Pitts got ruined under Arthur Smith. Maybe. Arthur Smith was using Kyle Pitts way wrong. He was a downfield target, 99th percentile average depth of target from quarterbacks like Taylor Heineke, Desmond Ridder. Well, you take the lowest percentage play in football, the deep pass, you put it from bad quarterbacks. Yeah, that's going to work. Well, don't forget, while Kyle Pitts wasn't doing great, Jonnu Smith had 582 yards last year. And Pittsburgh is going to probably run the 80% heavy personnel that Smith ran in Atlanta. And Darnell Washington, tight end. He's an offensive lineman. He's going to block. Freiermuth may be the second receiver in this offense. I know they drafted Roman Wilson. He's a slot. When you play 80% heavy, there is no slot. Kelvin Austin, little dude, talented, but probably not Van Jefferson, please. Pat Freiermuth is likely the second option. The history of Arthur Smith. Tennessee, 2019. Jonnu Smith, Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker got hurt. So they split, shared the role over the year when Walker got hurt. 654 yards and 5 touchdowns. 2020, Jonnu Smith was the only guy, and he wasn't a great tight end. But Jonnu Smith had a good season. 448 yards and 8 touchdowns. But again, Jonnu Smith is not the player Freiermuth is. Then we go to Atlanta. Now you had Pitts with 1,000 yards, 110 targets. Hayden Hurst had 31 targets, so 141 tight end targets there. And then 2022, Kyle Pitts got injured. So between Pitts and Michael Pruitt, 80 targets, 506 yards. And then last year, we saw between Pitts and Jonnu Smith, 160 targets. This offense will throw to the tight end. Freiermuth is their most valuable receiving tight end. He's not going to be used on deep routes like Kyle Pitts was. This is going to be a big season. All right, if you're looking for depth if you get one of the later tight ends, sometimes you like to draft a second one. And sometimes you're in tight end premium and you have to draft 2 of them. So I'm going to give you a few names of players, of tight ends, that you can usually get from tight end 15 on. Luke Musgrave of the Green Bay Packers. Now, Musgrave had at least 49 yards in 4 of his first 9 games, 59th percentile yards after the catch. Now, he had an injury in week 12 and missed 6 games. Musgrave was playing 45 to 60 snaps in that offense. He was a good receiving tight end. He would also get detached as an X receiver when the team stacked receiver on the other side, and Musgrave had winning plays there. The Green Bay offense was not good through almost all through week 11, really. Through weeks 1 through 3, they put some fantasy points because they trailed. And then in weeks 3 through 9, for sure, there were people dropping Jordan Love. The passing offense wasn't clicking. Matt LaFleur figured it all out after that. Well, Musgrave got hurt, and Musgrave missed out on that. Now, I know they have a lot of receivers in the offense who can catch the ball. Musgrave is very good, and Tucker Kraft was drafted to be a blocker. He's fine as a receiver, but Musgrave's the blocker, Kraft's the receiver, and they play 2 tight end sets. So Musgrave may not be a big play every week. Don't be surprised he gets enough volume to be a top 12 tight end of the season. Hunter Henry's another one. Henry will be 30. Disappointing last year. But look, could the offense have been any worse in New England? 2 years ago, you had Matt Patricia and Joe Judge running the offense. That didn't work. And then Bill O'Brien, whatever he did in the past that was good, wasn't so good last year. And then Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones at quarterback was a mess. Well, Henry has talents, though. And you should see that because last year, 3 of the first 4 games, he had at least 51 yards. And then it was terrible then. But then he finished the season well. Last 2 games before his injury. Last 2 games, he averages 53 yards and a half a touchdown. He can still play. And now we'll get either Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, some combination, maybe one or the other. But that's it. That should be an upgrade. And Hunter Henry can still play. And good red zone presence as well. Hunter Henry's in a good position here. Finally, a little bit later, you usually get him around tight end 20. He's moving up draft boards a little bit in the tight end premium leagues for sure. Noah Fant. Look, Noah Fant has not been good in Seattle the last couple of years, but he was in a 3-man rotation. You had Will Dissly. You had Colby Parkinson. They're both gone. Ryan Grubb's in now. Well, they're going to run more of a spread offense. Noah Fant back in 2021 when he was at Denver, he had 90 targets and 670 yards. It's a solid season. Fant's a very good athlete. He may not get 90 targets, or he had 43 last year, but 70, 75, maybe a tick more. Noah Fant's athletic. And if Ryan Grubb gets this offense spread out, there should be some lanes and seams to run. Fant actually had a pair of 90 target seasons in Denver, so he can handle a lot of volume. He may not be a superstar, but Noah Fant should outperform that ADP. So there's your draft plan for tight ends for 2024.